Welcome to the Northern Ontario Mining Showcase podcast. It's a limited series for the Echo Community Podcast Network by Story Studio Network and Clark Communications. We highlight the influential voices, partners, and leaders who are driving innovation, research, and development, creating new market opportunities and new ways of doing business in the mining industry.
The Echo Community Network is on location at the Northern Ontario Mining Showcase, part of PDAC 2024. Mike Campigotto is here. He is the president and founder, co-founder, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Co-founder of
Yes.
Safesight.
Yes.
Yeah. And first, Mike, great to see you. Your good looks. You age incredibly.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
Well,
and Mike's story is like he retires, very successful career in the tech sector, and then 10 minutes later, he gets now he's saving miners all around the world. So
We're trying. Yeah.
But tell us about Safesight though, because it's a fairly new company, but its evolution in the last 6 years is incredible. So tell us a little bit about the beginning.
Sure, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Great to see you. And I think, we folks in Northern Ontario have to make sure we're visible. So this is great help. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So the company has had a very rapid evolution. And I think that, we've been riding a wave, the digital transformation wave in mining. So there is a lot of interest and a lot of investment in taking technology and applying it to the sector, because the mining sector itself is a little bit behind the rest of the planet in terms of technology. And so we've been able to leverage that to grow rapidly. The story began, I retired, as you said, and I couldn't keep my hands out of the kitchen. And I was doing some consulting for various mining firms in North Bay, and they tabled this idea of drones underground to collect data that's high risk. And originally it was brought to me as a business proposal that they wanted me to provide advice on, and I said, great idea, lots of lakes, you should do it. And then the group that wanted to found it decided that they didn't want to become entrepreneurs, and they said, we're not going to do it, but if you want to do something with it, knock your socks off. And so I did. Found a bunch of engineers and said, hey, you guys want to do something cool? With the intention of putting a couple of years in to get, I think in the backdrop, what's important from my perspective is that in our community, especially in Northern Ontario in general, but especially in North Bay, we need to develop a much more balanced demographic and economic profile. The jobs we're creating are high-tech jobs. They're AI developers and three-dimensional modeling, software engineers, mechanical engineers, high-tech development. And that kind of profile is what I wanted to commit to bringing to the economy of Northern Ontario. Because my kids live there, my grandkids are going to live there, and I'm glad to have them there. So we need to create a more robust environment. So this business created an opportunity to create jobs in the tech sector, in an area that Northern Ontario we have proficiency in mining. There are about 76 mining supply companies just in North Bay. So there's an ecosystem there that we wanted to leverage. So I corralled a bunch of guys who said they'd be up for the challenge. And that was in 2015 in a garage. 2017 we incorporated, and now we are 14 people strong. We're in the process of hiring about 7 more people. To expand into a more global market and to penetrate some other industries. That's really happened very rapidly. Part of the reason that's happened as well is that we've been able to recognize how to build Swiss Army knives instead of utilities that are very singular in their application. And that's really allowed us to broaden our reach and range, which I think has fueled both investment and growth.
Mm-hmm. So Safesight, as you said in the beginning, it's a drone company that talked about how do you flying a drone underground, which is, I guess, complicated from the get-go to do that.
Yeah.
And it's really evolved into this incredible safety opportunity. And safety has evolved over the years. I remember Roy Slack saying to me when he was young in the 80s, they'd actually had a mathematical equation on how many people would die losing their lives and how many meters that they went underground. Well, today it's zero tolerance for death, and so making sure if an accident, God forbid, ever did happen, that Safesight is one of those high-tech firms that are going to provide an opportunity to make sure that people are going to arrive home safe, get them out of the mine in the worst case scenario.
Absolutely.
So maybe expand a little
Sure.
bit about that.
Sure, yeah. So we've essentially developed a portfolio of tools that really are about either removing people from harm's way. So if there is an incident, they're not there to be injured. Or in the event that they are, both protecting the worker for recovery or rescue and the responder who has to do the rescuing. I mean, in today's world right now, when there's an incident underground, the mine rescue team essentially has to take on major risk to go see if they can even rescue or recover because there's no data. So it's like something happened down there and people are leaving the site. The responders I talked to told me you can't rely on the word of mouth that comes out of the mine. If you say, hey, what happened down there, 50% of it's going to be wrong because people are emotionally stressed out. So really the only way they know how to respond to the incident is by going down there to see for themselves, is there a fire? Is there toxic gas? Is someone trapped? With our technology, they don't have to go underground. They can send the robots, the droids, the drones underground to collect that data, which now means when the responders go underground, they have 10 times the information they had in the old methodology because the drones are collecting all that data. And the droids are collecting that so that on surface, they already know who's where, if there's a fire or not a fire, etc. So that's in the event of an incident. And in the event of daily operations, our drones and our ground-based vehicles, they go into the danger zones to collect data, so the workers are never there. And that definitely dramatically changes the safety profile. We work with Vic in the Innovation Ministry and Minister Puri in Mining to create a modification last year to the Health and Safety Guide that would allow robots to do safety inspection. Up to then, the health and safety policy did not say a robot could do it. You had to use a supervisor.
So you're actually even in the game of changing policy.
Oh, yeah.
That's massive.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's like getting your fingernails ripped out. But yeah, it's massive. I mean, it's three words we wanted changed: or drone technology, as opposed to supervisor.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, they actually changed the policy because a lot of the mines we went to said, I'd love to use this, but then I'd be in violation of the act.
Interesting.
Yeah, wild, eh?
Yeah, I did not know that.
So we made those changes with Vic and Minister Puri's help, and now it's compliant to the Act, Health and Safety Guide, to use technology in addition to human beings to go in really dangerous areas to assess the level of safety. So I think those kinds of things really have helped foster our visibility and our growth. And we really have only scratched the surface of what the potential is of that technology, because even though we have it, we're not like, we go to these conferences, I can't tell you how many times people say, you guys can really do that? I had no idea, which kind of frustrates the heck out of me. What do I got to do? Dance naked in PDAC? But I think it's,
it's happened before, I believe, somewhere. I never saw it, but I'm sure it's happened.
I'm this close.
But tell us a little bit about, recently you did a large-scale exercise, I believe, in Sudbury, with some very big players involved. Tell us about who's involved,
sure,
and what took place and what was the feedback.
Hey, yeah, I appreciate you asking that. So January 24th was the day. In May, we competed with 29 other companies to win the Norcat Rogers Innovation Challenge for 5G technology. And so we collaborated with Rogers and Dell, Norcat, Mining Innovation, Ontario Mining Innovation Center, to essentially pull together a 5G environment for emergency response. And the demonstration of success of that challenge was to simulate the use of the technology. So the technology did not exist. We had to create it from our innovative minds. And what we were able to do was, with Norcat's help and mine rescuers from Newmont in Timmins, we simulated an underground emergency with 2 lost workers and a electronic vehicle fire. So at Norcat set up the environment, and then we simulated the rescue activity that would have to be executed to get those people out of the mine safely. So the scenario was, hey, an electric vehicle has been damaged by falling rock. The thermal battery is in thermal runaway, which means it's going to go to 5,000 degrees Celsius. 3 workers are unaccounted for. Somebody go get them. And what we did was we used the 5G environment and our technology to live cast the rescue in real time from underground. So if you can imagine yourself in the Situation Room at the White House, watching the Navy SEALs go after bin Laden, that's what we were doing.
Wow.
And we broadcast to Toronto, across the U.S., as far as Saudi Arabia. People were watching in the Kingdom, as well as obviously Sudbury at 2 sites in Sudbury, and Toronto at the Rogers Center, the Rogers Exhibition Center. So we were able to demonstrate the responders collecting data to find the workers, to find the fire before they ever went underground. And I think one of the surprise stars of this show was a technology we created called the Power Rescue Wheel, which is essentially a wheel that snaps onto any rescue basket. It's an EV unit, so it essentially provides with a dead man switch where the operator just pulls the trigger and the wheel goes. So we had a volunteer injured worker. He was 6'5", 275.
Wow.
We had 5 rescuers with a rescue basket that had to carry him 260 meters to a waiting ambulance. They were able to evacuate him in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, they were really stoked. They were like high-fiving. And I said to them, "What's the big deal, fellas?" And they basically said, "Look, the protocol to evacuate any person in a basket is you take 20 steps and everybody rotates, so you switch arms. And you do that 5 times, then you have a 2-minute rest, then you pick the basket back up and you do it all over again." So if you do the math on that evacuation with that manual method, it's 45 minutes to travel the 260 meters to get that person to an ambulance or medical attention. They did it in 5 minutes and 25 seconds. And so when they explained that to me, I'm like, wow, that's pretty damn amazing.
I think any first responder, if you could say, I can get them there 40 minutes faster.
Exactly. And the guys told me too, like they're on oxygen. So the harder they work, the faster the oxygen burns. They rescued 3 people in that rescue basket, and they told me with today's technology, using standard methods, they would have had to use 3 crews to do that. Because after they carry a 275-pound miner out of a mine, they're all exhausted. They send in team number 2. These guys were able to drop and go 3 times.
Right.
And I mean, that wasn't even the point of the bloody presentation. It was really, the fact that those responders were able to, from the surface, find the workers, assess the temperature of the fire, validate there was no toxic gas, and really map out how they were going to respond. So I think that, for us, that's both the gratification and the thing that keeps spurring us on. As I was saying to you earlier, it's like, well, when you have a solution like that can be so dramatic, there's a moral obligation you have to just continue to push it forward and develop it and integrate it into the fabric of mining. So that's what's driving us.
Anecdotally, for the people that were seeing for the first time and what was happening, and you referenced it a little bit, what were they saying?
Yeah, I mean, people were so I was at NORCAT, the demonstration mine, and I was emceeing essentially the broadcast screen, so the bin Laden screen. So it was a quad screen, so you got a digital view of the mine, a thermal view of the mine. You had the body cams of all the responders, and I was essentially making sure that the audiences around the globe were understanding what was happening. As that was happening, people off to the side were getting text messages and notifications about how unbelievable this was, and how it was hard to imagine that so quickly this would be available to the emergency response profile. Game changer, step change, were the kinds of things that were coming across. But I think for me, the most gratifying thing was the responders themselves were like, why don't we have this? What's taking so long? And so it was very validating to see that it was so well received. And now the real challenge is getting it out there, getting the word out, and getting people to recognize what the potential is, because a lot of folks don't know that it's possible. Right?
And tell us about your, maybe go back to even the early days. This pavilion, because we're here because we're sponsored by FedNor. We get a chance to be here in this Northern Ontario Mining Showcase. Maybe you could afford probably anywhere Safesight can be in any booth, but you choose to be here and continue to be part of this this pavilion. Tell us how important, especially in the early days.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was.
I mean, I think so I've been in business a while, and I'm telling you that for anybody that's out there that's starting a business, running a business, it's all about relationships. It's all about partnerships and collaboration. It's all about the integrity of saying what you do and doing what you say. And I think this community in this event space really represents a lot of the relationships and collaborations of Northern Ontario. I mean, I've said it 100 times that between North Bay and Sudbury, we are the Silicon Valley of mining. There is no hole in the ground that doesn't have something from those two communities globally, right? Yeah. And so I think that this is really a celebration of that community, and I think you can't get much done maybe you can, but effectively, in building these relationships and these collaborations is how we help each other. A rising tide floats all boats, and this is the rising tide. I'm hoping our boat floats on it. So I think that's a really big part of why we're here. In past, we've done the big booth of our own. We've done the big 20 by 20s, the 10 by 10s, etc. I think that my experience has been that there's more of a family feel when you're in this kind of a pavilion structure. One
of the things I really like about you, Mike, is you walk the walk, right? And you just said it there, but you didn't say it. And by changing policy, yes, it makes a difference with your company. But in leading that charge, you actually open the door for technology and safety for everyone.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because no one will, even though you started investing in this type of technology, policy wasn't there. So you couldn't even get it into the mine. So you had to push to get that done. So you open the gates for others to innovate.
Yeah, and I think that's the way we have to operate, especially, as a young startup company. I mean, maybe we're not young anymore, but it's not easy to get done. And if you don't have the support of other companies and mechanisms like FedNor and NOHFC that we have that are unique to the North, it's really hard to compete against global players. Like my competition's not in North Bay; it's in Australia, it's in Philadelphia,
right?
And so it takes a village, really. It's no different than any other metaphor you want to apply for us to be successful.
Mike Campigotto is with Safesight. He's the president. He's also Benjamin Buttons. He gets younger and better looking as he ages. That's Mike Campigotto.
Thanks, man. Right back at you.
Mike, thanks very much for joining us here at the Northern Ontario Mining Showcase. We hope you have a great show, man.
Thank you, man.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the Northern Ontario Mining Showcase podcast. The series is produced for the Echo Community Podcast Network by Story Studio Network and Clark Communications. For more information, visit our website, northbayecho.ca.